do want to point out across the league, Week 1, passing numbers down significantly. Teams averaging just 188 pass yards per game, the fewest in any week since 2007. 22 of 32 starting QBs going under their passing yardage prop. The Pats pulled off the biggest upset of Week 1, beating the Bengals and knocking out about 30% of Eliminator Challenge entrants in the process. Biggest Week 1 upset since 2018. However, favorites did still go 13-3 outright, best Week 1 winning percentage since 2009. They were 9-7 against the spread, best mark in Week 1 since 2015.
Maybe it was the hair.
For Burrow, you think?
Yeah, maybe.
He didn't look good, either with the hair or throwing the football. Joe, back out to you. What's your advice about bettors who want to look at Week 1 and say, this informs me of what to do in Week 2?
Think the opposite. Week 2 is a great week for sports bettors who understand what they're doing because Week 1 is the biggest overreaction week of the entire season. People have been waiting months to bet on the NFL. Then they get one data point, then they overreact. Okay, here's an example of this. Let's look at the last 3 years. Teams that win and cover in Week 1 the last 3 years, they go on to cover the next week 38% of the time. Teams that win and cover and are a favorite in Week 2, they go on to cover 26% of the time. I hate to break it to Dolan, but the Eagles are in that category.
You're an Eagles fan too,
they
Joe.
covered, and they are a favorite in Week 2. That speaks to the overreaction that occurs, and you're seeing that with some of these point spreads. Kansas City went from a 3.5-point favorite on the look-ahead all the way up to 5.5 against Cincinnati. We've seen it all across the league, so just listen, either take it easy because there's a lot of traps that are being laid, especially with these 6.5-point lines, or understand that there's opportunity to go the other way based on the overreaction to what we're seeing in Week 1.
All right, basically pull a Costanza. Whatever you think you know from Week 1, do the opposite, according to Joe Fortenbaugh, and some compelling data to back that up. Aaron, what are you taking away from Week 1?
I mean, Joe said it best. I don't know what the Eagles dig was there. I don't know. Are you like suddenly a Raiders fan? You go out to Vegas for 24 hours already? All right, nonetheless. Don't overreact, like Joe had said. From my perspective, I think this really can be a testament to the player prop market as well. You see a player do really good in Week 1, and you're like, you know what, that's the game plan. That's what they're going to do again in Week 2. Yeah. And that's not the case. And some of these numbers are already inflated because people are wanting to bet on particular players. On top of that, there are some teams, though, that you should have conviction on that aren't good. Like the Giants actually do stink. They were terrible in Week 1. They're going to be terrible the rest of the season. And then also the Bears, Steelers. Make sure you're actually looking at these box scores. Like the special teams are carrying some of these offenses, okay? So you can't just look at the numbers alone. So yes, don't overreact. I know it's hard, but definitely every game is a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, you see the moves, the most significant ones for Week 2 on your screen there, and one of those has flipped favorite. Arizona now favored over the Rams.
The Eagles one is ridiculous, even as an Eagles fan.
So you're considering the Falcons, huh?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I considered going to the game.
Don't want to put words in your mouth.
Falcons.
All right, back to Anita Marks. Let's get her thoughts on what she is eyeing a few days out from the Week 2 slate.
Yeah, one game I've already gone to the window on, and that's the Colts. How can you not, right? Anthony Richardson, solid performance. Shane Steichen, brilliant offensive mind, effective. Really, and at the end of the day, I bury the lead here, and that's the fact that the Green Bay Packers are going to be able, without, at least we're anticipating, without Jordan Love. Malik Willis more than likely is going to start. So how can you not like taking the Colts at -3? Maybe you want to buy the hook down to -2.5. And the other one is the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against Cleveland. Aaron said just how bad the Giants were with Daniel Jones. Deshaun Watson, second worst quarterback in Week 1. Just a smidge above Daniel Jones, and some off-the-field issues there. How are they all handling that? Who knows? Jacksonville at home. David Njoku is going to be inactive, and at the end of the day, it just doesn't seem like Deshaun Watson really fits Stefanski's offensive system. So love the Jags, love the Colts. That's two teams that I'm feeling really good about heading into Week 2.
I was curious what you thought about the Week 1 drop in quarterback production. Yeah. We only saw 15 quarterbacks throw for 200 yards, the fewest in any week since Week 15 of the 2007 season. We only saw 35 touchdown passes as well. I'm thinking about betting some overs moving forward, but I'm wondering, is this more of a defensive thing, like defenses are catching up, or is it the rust from lack of play in the preseason?
Yeah, to answer the question football-wise, it's multitudes of things, and both of those being a part of it. If I had to pick one being the most responsible for it, it's defenses. Defenses are playing what we call umbrella defenses or shell defenses, 2 safeties deep, and they're really daring teams that have these unbelievably dynamic quarterbacks and unbelievable wide receivers run the football. And where you run the football and be committed to doing it and do it well enough where you can drive down the field, because the explosive plays have gone down because teams are just playing catch and throw football from the shotgun. So I think it's the defenses trying to stay a little bit ahead of the offenses, and offenses maybe not being exactly what they want to be identity-wise. I do believe it gets better for some teams over the course of this season, and I absolutely believe that some teams will be stubborn enough offensively not to change, and they will struggle.
All right, well, let's look ahead to Sunday. 49ers, they looked good. Monday night, you liked them to win outright. That was great. Pretty, under completions did end up hitting.
I went 50.
You took over. You went over. You went over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever, 1-1. You also killed me on the worthy last Thursday, but I digress. San Fran jumped. San Fran was -6.5, went down to -5.5. So money's coming in on the Minnesota Vikings. Do you think that San Fran can roll in this spot, or the Vikings are going to be able to keep it close?
I think the Vikings can keep it close. I really do. I think the Vikings match up well against San Francisco. One, you got to stop San Francisco's offense, and I think Brian Flores, as the defensive coordinator of the Vikings, can do a good enough job when it comes to the different people that he'll put up at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes he'll present a bunch of different fronts. He'll make this offense play a little bit hesitant. Last year, Brock Purdy struggled against this Vikings defense, one of the games that he did. And then I think offensively, because the offensive line in Minnesota is so good and Sam Darnold is really in a place where he can play on time, I think that minimizes San Francisco's defensive line a little bit. And I do think the way to attack San Francisco's defense is that play action pass and getting the ball to some of those crossers, not throwing it like Rodgers did right there. I think the Vikings are built to do that. San Francisco wins, I believe that. I think it's a good football game.
The Week 2 card is filled with potential traps, one of which is this Green Bay-Indianapolis game. Jordan Love's injured. Malik Willis is stepping in. Didn't have a lot of success in Tennessee. Most people think to themselves, Indianapolis should go up there and roll. Yeah. But the Packers were 3.5-point dogs. It got bet down to 3. Now it's bet down to 2.5. That's a big move through a key number. How big of a drop is it from Jordan Love to Malik Willis?
Like $250 million, something like that. I think it's a significant drop. Now, I think Malik showed some signs of improvement in Tennessee, and he can potentially keep them afloat. But this is a tough task. One, Indy's front four defensively was really good last week versus Houston. Now, C.J. Stroud made some plays with his legs, so can Malik Willis go and do that? But I look at it from the other side of the football. Anthony Richardson played better than the stat line projected itself. They saw some big plays downfield. I want to see, can they run the football? Remember, Green Bay's defense kind of underwhelmed in Week 1, and Saquon Barkley had a really big game. Jonathan Taylor, can he kind of replicate that performance? Anthony Richardson, find that sweet spot, get a couple more completions. I think Indy's offense is a little bit more of the conversation than their defense versus Malik Willis.
All right, Dan, let's talk about our boy Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams.
Right.
They opened as a favorite against the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona now a small 1-point favorite at home in Week 2. Likely a reaction to all the offensive line injuries and the Puka Nacua injury for the Rams. So what do Stafford, McVay, and the rest of that Rams team need to do to avoid an 0-2 start?
Yeah, from the defensive side, I was really impressed with the Rams defense. That's the first game that they didn't have Aaron Donald. I think they got to do a really good job of keeping Kyler in the pocket, but not giving him forever in the pocket, because that's something that he was good against Buffalo early on with. I think, two, make sure that Kyler doesn't get out on the edges when he becomes a scrambler. That was a little bit of design last week. And then offensively, the Rams do such an amazing job of getting in formations and getting the ball out of Matthew's hands, but these offensive linemen and their injuries are a concern. Puka not being there is a concern. They have to find a way to get bodies off of the quarterback. Make sure that the yards after the catch is a bigger part of their game. And I do think that Sean McVay, as much as he loves to play in the gun and the pistol with Matthew, and it makes sense because they're amazing at it, they're going to have to try to pound the football at Arizona a little bit, just like Buffalo did last week.
Could be a big Kyron Williams game then. We saw Kyron handle a big workload against the Lions. All right, Next week, we'll get that pesky Las Vegas Tribune reporter out of here. He was asking some,
does he
fun
have
questions.
credentials?
I don't know. That was weird. Dan Orlovsky, the one and only Thursday evening quarterback here on ESPN Bet Live. Thank you, Dan. Yep. Back here on ESPN Bet Live talking NFL Week 2. After becoming the first #1 overall pick to win his first career start in 22 seasons, Caleb Williams remains the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He struggled in that debut, though, against the Titans, throwing for just 93 yards. As a result, his odds moving slightly from plus 140 to plus 165 in that market. Washington QB Jaden Daniels remains the second favorite, though his odds have dropped from 5-1 to plus 375. Xavier Worthy making a big move, going from 22-1 to 9-1 after scoring 2 touchdowns in the Chiefs opener. Jags receiver Brian Thomas, another big riser, moving from 40-1 to 22-1. Time to welcome in one of our male modelers, our good friend Seth Walders, joining us as he does on a Thursday here on ESPN Bet Live. All right, let's start with a future here. I was talking about Offensive Rookie of the Year market there, but what about the Defensive Rookie of the Year market? Is there something we should know?
Yeah, if I were you, I would jump on Jared Verse to win Defensive Rookie of the Year right now. He's plus 550. I think he should be the favorite at this point. Our prior on this market should be that it was wide open. No defensive player drafted until pick 15, then a bunch were selected. And then you have this week 1. I don't think it's too soon to move substantially when we see the kind of performance that Verse gave. He had a 33% pass rush win rate in week 1. It was tied for 6th best, also had a sack. And no other rookie was at 14%. To me, the win rate is where you want to judge these guys because we're able to judge them on more snaps, more plays, gives us a better window into their talent level. Last year, I bet on Will Anderson midway through the year based on his win rate. I found generally, you look at the win rate, the sacks will follow, and they'll reward the sack leader with Defensive Rookie of the Year, probably.
Talking to a Rams fan, I don't mind that. And that's not 6th best among rookies. That's 6th best amongst all players in the NFL, that pass rush win rate that you're talking about there for Jared Verse against the Detroit Lions, and a pretty good tackle in Taylor Decker. All right, now to a Sunday game we'll see. Steph Diggs, he found the end zone twice in his Texans debut, but only produced 33 receiving yards in that victory over the Colts. What props, if any, of Diggs are you targeting for this matchup against Chicago?
So his receiving line is 59.5, but I'm going with the alt line 80 plus at plus 225. So my alt receiving line model likes this, sees a value, and basically we're betting on a good player and a great offense and having his upside hit. What the model found is that when we look at past receiving lines, so your past over-unders for receiving yards, that is helpful in predicting future performance. Last season, Steph Diggs, don't get me wrong, totally different situation in Buffalo, but still, his average over-under was 77 last year. So now we're saying to get to 80, it's plus 225. He's got more target competition, but we know the talent is there. And also, last year, Chicago had a good run defense. That leads to more passing plays generally for Houston.
All right, we'll see if Chicago focuses more on Tank Dell and Nico Collins and maybe leaves some opportunity for Steph Diggs to hook up with C.J. Stroud on that alt line.